What's better at sucking people's blood? Leeching Plate or Crimson Twilight? How's it going, guys? It is Venom Surge here, and welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Online. Today's episode is actually quite a bit different than our normal episodes. Usually we go over builds that I create, but today we will be testing what is better, Leeching Plate or Crimson Twilight. So let's jump right into this. Crimson Twilight comes from Castle Thorn. You can do this on normal or vet. It gives you max health, healing taken, max health. After taking damage, you surround yourself in an 8-meter mist of blood. After 2 seconds, the mist explodes and deals 7.4k bleed damage to all enemies, and you heal for 100% of the damage done. This can occur every 8 seconds and scales off of your max health. Before we get too deep onto details, I want to also talk about leeching. Leeching Plate comes from Imperial City Prison, also on normal or vet. And if you notice here, the first 3 pieces are exactly the same, so this allows us to test this very easily. As you see on the bottom here, when you take damage, you summon a cloud of poison underneath of the enemy, and it deals 1600 poison damage every second for 5 seconds. You heal for 100% of the damage caused, and it can occur every 5 seconds, and it scales off of your max health. Having them compared like this, with the Leeching Plate, which is on the left here, it first of all does poison, whereas Twilight does bleed damage. So I'm not entirely sure, but if you equip stuff that increases poison damage, this should increase the amount of damage you do on the leeching. Same with the bleed for Twilight. Now if you also notice, Twilight has a 2-second delay, which actually means, even though it says it can occur every 8 seconds, the heal comes technically every 10 seconds. So in a way it has a 10-second cooldown if you include those first 2 seconds. Whereas leeching has 100% uptime. The cloud basically will just dissipate and then appear somewhere else as long as you've been attacked. Now with leeching on the left here, it goes on to the enemies, whereas the crimson goes on to yourself. So there's a benefit with that. I heard a lot of people like using Crimson Twilight in PvP because it allows you, as you can see here, as I aggro these enemies, this blood is on me, not the enemies. So I'll let it proc again here in a second. There it is. It's a kind of invisible-ish, but it is on me. So these enemies are kind of spread out right now. You got 2 range and 1 melee. I can manually move over here so all of them get into my effect here. Okay, so this is the same group. Now we have leeching equipped. Right there, that green poison, that's on him. So if I come over here now, this dude is not in the poison, which means I'm only hitting those 2 with my poison. This guy isn't counting. So in PvP, it makes it a lot harder. You don't get to choose who's going to be affected. It happened to be that this time the mage is affected, so they're still over there. He hasn't helped me though. If it comes over here, we're only getting 1 person worth of healing. The leeching so far seems to have more of a negative because you don't get to control it. Although it does have 100% uptime, if you can't control it, this is based off of the amount of enemies you're fighting. The more enemies that are getting in the cloud for both the leeching and the crimson, the more healing you're gonna get. So it is worth it to try to control what's in there. So far, Twilight has the lead. Now, so far, Crimson seems to be more worth it, but let's look at the actual numbers as far as what you gain for healing. As you can see on the Crimson on the left, you heal for about 7.4k. Now that is per enemy. Now this also has that 8-second cooldown plus the 2 seconds, which is 10 seconds. Looking at the calculator here, we heal for this much over 10 seconds. That's our healing per second, whereas if you look at leeching, we heal for 1600. Now let's even say if this actually is 8 seconds and I'm just misunderstanding it, leeching still does more so far. This is only 922, whereas leeching is 1600. Now let's look at a bigger number. So let's say you're fighting 5 enemies, which it's common to be around that amount, especially if you're in a dungeon. With Crimson times 5 enemies, you're going to burst heal for 37k health. My issue with Crimson is this is a wasted heal unless you're taking a lot of damage. And if you're taking a lot of damage, that's going to get dangerous. Now this is over, let's say once again it's 8 seconds. You get 4.6k healing. That is with 5 enemies. Leeching does 8k with 5 enemies, and it has 100% uptime. That is 8k a second, 100% uptime, which means your health isn't going to be fluctuating. In my testing with Crimson, I would keep getting low and then burst back up, and that is very dangerous, especially in PvP. Now, once again, you cannot control leeching, but it is almost double the amount of healing, and that's if Crimson is actually on this 8-second cooldown. You got to add those 2 seconds, so it's technically a 10-second cooldown. Now, another thing is Crimson is 8 meters of an explosion, whereas Leeching doesn't tell you how large the cloud is, but I do believe it's about 5 meters. So it is less than this Crimson thing, but the uptime and the amount of healing, to me so far, Leeching is starting to take the lead. Hey guys, editing me here. Another thing I wanted to point out is that leeching can actually be cleansed off of enemy players, whereas Twilight is on you, so you don't need to worry about it being cleansed. So even though players may dodge out of the Twilight, they can also cleanse the leeching, so in that way they are kind of equal. So to make this build as fair as possible in the testing, I am on a Templar. Templar's passives don't have anything that will affect our survivability in combat unless you activate certain skills. I am not activating any healing skills. This gives me magicka back, but it does not actually heal me at all. It does give those buffs, but that is on no matter which set we're using, so that is fair. This is the damage morph, so we do not heal from this, but we can cleanse ourselves. Blazing Shield I will not use for survivability. I am just using this to clear out ads on my way to the bosses. This will not be used during the boss fights, so I won't be cheating if I put up extra health. We are going to just sit there and let the bosses hit us. And then these two are just for, once again, clearing through the waves, as well as the solar prison. Nothing in here allows me to heal, and I have nothing on my back bar. For my other set, I am using Plague Doctor, just so we can get more max health. Everything is divines except for the big pieces, which are reinforced. We're using Mighty Chuden as our monster set because most of the skills that give us resolve also heal us or give us other buffs, and I don't want RNG to be a factor of this, so we're going to have this up at all times. This is divines, but this is also reinforced. Everything's maxed health and all heavy armor. The leeching and the crimson stuff are the exact same enchants and traits, both are healthy with health recovery. We are using a defending mace with the absorb stam enchant, max stam enchant, and divines on the shields. We're doing 64 points into health. We're using the Lord as a Mundus Stone. We are using Jewels of Misrule to get extra health and stat recoveries. And I may use Spellcaster or Warrior Elixir potions just to get resources back. This does not heal me, so there's nothing to be there. We are also an Imperial, so that way there is no RNG in here either. As far as CP, we're just doing all the mitigation damage CP things. And then in the red tree, we have armor, health, increased crowd control immunity, and then automatically break free. So there is no RNG, extra healing, or anything in here. So guys, I'm about to go over the outfit. If you guys would like to skip over this, you can go straight to the testing of the sets. But first up, we are using the Bloodforge helmet on the heavyweight. We are using the medium Abaz watch breastplate. We are using the heavy Pyre watch pauldrons. We are using the heavy Welkanar gauntlets. we are using the Heavy House Hexos Girdle, even though you can't really see it. We are using the Heavy Thorn Legion Greaves, Heavy Militant Ordinator Sabatons. For the sword, we're using Ancestral Nord Sword. For the shield, we are using Barbaric Shield 3. For the main white across the body, we are using Marble White. For the few browns, we are using the Motif Master Brown. On the breastplate, we are using my Viridium Venom. And on the boots, we are using Julianus White as an accent color. I'll go through the color combinations for you guys. The first white on the sword is actually the Marble White, and then the Julianus. Same with the shoes. Everything else is marble. So coming over here into Hrothgar, we are going to try out 2 bosses, and then we are going to do another thing that I'll give as a surprise later. Each of these steps are going to ramp up in the amount of adds that we are going to be siphoning from. This first boss will give about 5 adds-ish at the max, and we'll stand in all the AoEs possible so we can take a lot of incoming damage. Now for this boss, he doesn't normally hit hard, so I will be taking off Mighty Chuden, so that way we are just more squishy overall. That does remind me, I did not go over our stats here. You can look at the stats here. We are basically at cap for resists. This is what we look like without the Mighty Chuden equipped. Now I do have the armory set up as a DPS, so that way we can get through the first 3 waves of adds with no problem. Okay guys, so the Mighty Chuden is unequipped, and we are doing Crimson for the first test. For each boss, we will use each set twice, so that way we can mitigate as much RNG as possible. So right now he starts out with nobody, and as you can see, he does about 80-ish% of our health. Now that was Crimson that just went off there. So he's not gonna kill us too much right now. That's not where he does a lot of damage. He'll start doing a lot of damage when he does this right here. So we're gonna stand in here. Now this is where the adds come in, and as you can see, we're already dead like that. But we will do this again. Now, because the spiders are already in, that gives us a lead, because now each time we heal while he's doing that big AoE, we already have the spiders here, and since we can control it, since this is Crimson, we can position ourselves to make sure that all of the enemies get hit. Now this is 5 enemies right now. Some might come in later, I'm not entirely sure, but see, we're already just like that. It was just almost able to proc, and yet we couldn't. That's my issue with Crimson, is if you're doing, this is a semi-light attacking boss. If you're doing vet hard DLC content, a boss can easily strike you down in 10 seconds. Even if it is 8 seconds, it can easily strike you down in that time. Okay, so for this test, we won't stand in the AoE the entire duration. I lied, we're just going to do a 3rd test for this, just that way we can at least survive the first AoE. But that's with us having to walk out, which is kind of cheating. Okay, so we'll take some damage. We'll step out, heal out, and then we can go back in. But just from the adds here alone, see, we're already done at 28. Okay, we burst back up to 70. So when he's not doing the massive mechanic, we're going to get low, we're going to pop back up high. In PvP, that's dangerous. In hard dungeons, that's dangerous. You don't want to constantly fluctuate like that unless you're wanting to purposely drop your health for some reason. But as soon as he does this, unless we get good timing like that one, just like that, we're dead. Okay, now for leeching. The other nice thing about both of these sets is because they're doing damage based off max health, as I'm sitting here doing these tests, I'm actually killing all of these even though I'm just sitting still. Okay, now once again, we have spiders. Now we only have 3 this time, so that's less than the original. Now it looks like he had it. We'll see where it goes this time. Okay, we're going to start taking damage, but look at this. Leeching is almost able to perfectly keep up with that. And it's on him. None of these guys are here. If I want, I could try to position them closer. This will work for ads, but obviously in PvP, that won't work as easily. Now, both of these effects are not very visible. They both can, the leeching can be cleansed, so PvP, they can cleanse it off. The Crimson, they cannot cleanse off because it is on you, but they can see it. And it is a big red AoE, so enemy players might know to get out of the way, especially if it becomes popular. But as you can see, we don't even need to exit that red AoE, and we're surviving him just fine. It does get a little dicey sometimes, but we're only surviving with 3 spiders right now. We actually just lost 1. Now we're only at 2, and then they also go out there for some reason, where leeching doesn't affect us. We're still in the AoEs right now. This is how powerful leeching is compared to Crimson. Personally, I've always preferred leeching. I haven't really tried Crimson before this test. That's the point of this video, is to see what is better. Now, this is only with 5 ads at max and then 1 boss, so 6 enemies. Let's see what it's like when you ramp up the amount of enemies that you're fighting. For this next boss, we will be doing the unfinished dolmen. I am in a DPS setup right now, just that way we can kind of get through all these ads and get set up. But once we're here, then we'll see how the bosses are as far as damage taken. Now, this boss will have a lot more ads, but those ads, you'll see in a little, have something special and very dangerous about them. Okay, so we're using Mighty Chuden once again, and we are starting with Crimson. So with this boss, he himself doesn't really hurt that much. He does 7% of my health, which is barely anything. 20% there. If I stand in the flames, that will kill me. I've tried that. Just take my word on it, because I want to show you guys this part. All these scamps, there's a lot more ads, but look at this. They all explode and kill themselves. Here's the trouble with this. They do a lot of damage. As I'm trying to avoid all their attacks, they're gonna get me down. Now, Crimson, obviously being a periodic explosion, I'm not gonna get a chance that often to hit multiple scamps. That time I got like 3 right there, plus the boss. But we're just sitting around, and there we go, we dropped dead. All right, so round 2. This time I'll stand in the fire just for a bit, so you can see very clearly that as I stand in here, it's doing a decent amount of damage, and they do stack. Because these scamps pretty much die instantly, that means we have very little chance and time to hit multiple people. It looks like we only hit 2 on that one, and we're almost dead already. I'm gonna try to, yep, we're down. Screw it, just because we're gonna do a 3rd test for Crimson, just that way we can give it another shot. Okay, so we are now at the point of the scamps. So now I'm going to try to stay near them, but not be in the thing. I'm going to constantly move around and try to get around from them. That was a big heal. We got a big heal off of that. As you can see, they keep coming in, and I want to be near them so I can heal. But at the same time, I don't want to be near them because they're going to kill me. Okay, and now we are on the leeching. Now, here's another issue with leeching. It's an HOT, it is not a burst. So it'll mainly be on him, as you can see, since he'll be doing the damage the most consistent. But if a scamp gets it, it will stay on where the scamp dies. But since there's not many scamps coming by, we won't get too many chances with it unless it gets on the boss. But the cool thing about this is we can still lure them into the field if we want, but it's an HOT, so we still get all of these heals incoming, and we still do take a lot of damage. I mean, this is a very painful dungeon, as you can see. But I'm actually going to stand still and let's see what happens. Okay, fire, we're not going to stand in. We're getting low. It doesn't feel good. And we eventually die. Okay, so it's going for round 2. I'm not going to stand in the fire just because if you're normally tanking, you wouldn't. Now, the scamps, it might actually be better to stand still and let them all come to me, because if they're all coming to me, that group might kind of combine together. When I first tested, that's what I did. And yeah, as you can see here, besides the fire right there, the leeching is almost completely keeping up with the scamps. So when they explode, I don't actually even feel the scamps that much. Okay, we're not gonna stand in the fire. Look at this. Yes, we're struggling. Now, once again, obviously you wouldn't just stand here as a tank, but that's what we're doing. But leeching alone is letting us do this. Like, this is kind of ridiculous. This thing, like you saw earlier, it was slaughtering us and you would notice a large health decrease, but leeching is keeping up enough with all these scamps incoming. We are slowly losing. At some point I expect that we will die, but and look how much health he's taken. We've done 20% of his health from standing here because it's based on max HP of our own. And sometimes it looks like we're actually going up in health. There we go. Now that had quite a lot of scamps and then one consistent boss that was healing us. Now this is our final kind of surprise area. This is a lot of fun to do when you have one of these two sets, and I think you guys could figure out which one by now. This place has a lot of enemies, and if you can't tell by the background here, I am talking about Hellraw Citadel. We are in Crimson for the first test, like normal. So this is a third, maybe, of the total group. So first we're going to stand in this and see how we do. And we're actually going to stand still for this test. This is just a slowing effect, I believe, so it's not going to be too massive. Now, all these archers, not affecting us. They're not going to be in the range. We could move these guys over here if we wanted, try to get some archers involved, but so far, doing pretty good. We can definitely survive this. Let's move on and add some friends. So these guys will follow us. We got more that just spawned in up here. We're gonna come through here and aggro everything. Now, just for testing purposes, I'm going to put a shield on right now just so we can bring everybody up to here. Okay, so now we're just gonna sit here for a little bit, see how we do. We drop low, about 50 to 60%. We're at 50, 40, 30. Ooh, that was kind of getting close. Let's add in this last group here, and I am popping a shield once again, just that way we can maneuver over here. And I will do the same for the leeching. Just like that, we get absolutely demolished. Now all the archers are running back right now, so I'm gonna sit here and let all of them walk back up so that way they can start their little meditation thing, and then we'll start wave 2. Alright, so round 2, we're gonna aggro all these guys again. And we're gonna walk them up here. We are using a shield just because with this, since the Twilight triggers on me, I'm not gonna get any heals since they're all over there, whereas Leeching technically would be cheating because it would be on them, so that would not be a fair representation. So let's get into here. 40, 30. I'm gonna pop a shield just in case. Maybe we can get a proc. There it is, 100%. Okay, so it is fresh now. Let's see how long we can survive in here. Oh, just in time. And we're dead. All right, let's start with the leeching. So once again, we'll start with the group down here. Now, sadly, because the group that originally spawns in there walked all the way up, we'll have to just go straight to aggroing everybody. Now, here's the downside with leeching. In a group like this, he actually had the poison out there, so I'm only getting 1, maybe 2 people healing from that. Now it's in here. Look how much healing I'm getting now. Quite a bit more. Now, leeching's kind of weird. It doesn't actually show all the healing we get, but as you can see, we're staying over 90% all of the time. Even safe to say maybe over 95%. So, because leeching is on there, we actually don't need to pop the shield. I was just popping the shield to give Crimson Twilight a bit more of an edge, so that way we can kind of survive as we're going along here. We're gonna come up here and aggro all these archers. Now, a lot of them are archers, so they'll spread out, and that's not at all what we want. So let's come into the middle here, and let's see how we do. I am doing nothing. Here, I just put away my sword and everything. We have no heals on the bar. They just knocked us back there. I'm not blocking. No ulties or anything. Oh, we're actually getting low there. Alright, let's do round 2. Now this time, I'm not going to move like crazy, but I'm not going to stand in the AoEs, because normally you wouldn't. And on the Twilight's Embrace, I never really stood in the AoEs at all. They didn't even put down AoEs because we died so quickly. As you saw, we were doing fine for a long time until we weren't. Now that could have also been, like as you see, the archers are being poisoned out there, so we're not getting healing from these guys. The AoEs are starting to build up in there. You can kind of see those red circles in there. I'm assuming look at that. The poison's only on 1 person right there. So that's where leeching has a problem. But as long as it's on somebody, I mean, like I said, we can move around if we want. Let's kind of move over here. We can bring the party over here. We're getting low. We're getting low. There we go. Yep, I just saw it over there. The poison was out there in the field, so it was not healing where the majority of the enemies are. Just for a fun time, let's see how long we can survive with leeching in a longest run. We're just gonna keep on pushing here. Now it looks like the poison's over here, so I'm gonna try to move around a bit, because that's the thing about leeching, is it because it is based on the enemy, you may need to do some maneuvering. Sometimes you might want to pull the enemy in. If I had a pull, I could just pull the poisoned enemy in, and then we'll have no problem at all. Yeah, Twilight's Embrace is nice that you can control it since it's on you, but it can't keep you alive like this set can. This set just keeps you going like crazy. I'm not blocking, I'm not popping shields. The only time I technically mitigate damage is when I dodge roll like that, but I'm only doing that because I can't walk through this giant crowd of people. In fact, I can't walk at all right now. I'm kind of stuck. But I mean, as you can see, very strong set. And this time around, it seems like either we're moving enough to keep them going, or it's proccing on people in my group, because so far, not dying. I'm gonna keep on going here and see how long we can go. I'll turn this into a time lapse so you guys can just see me all the way go into the end, and I'll let you guys know how long I survived. So guys, I was expecting me to last a while, but I wasn't expecting this long. And I'm not even actually moving around anymore. They're just shoving me around. And as you can see, a lot of them are getting low health because the poison's actually killing them. And so I'm not gonna go through and kill all these guys through the poison, but technically that would be possible. Just slowly kill all of them by the poison damage. But as you can see, leeching is very powerful. Obviously, it puts out more heals and it's 100% uptime, so you'll survive better. Now, you don't get to control it, and as you can see, the poison's all the way out there in the archers, so it's not helping me right now. But I'm not saying Twilight's Embrace is a bad set, but it is dangerous to use when you're doing hard content. If the bosses are able to take down almost all of your health before Twilight can activate, that's a problem. If you're doing something like Frostfall on Vet, the last boss can shred you up. Now, he only counts as one enemy, but technically he has multiple health bars, so Leeching and Twilight get to count for 3 enemies there. But when I went through that dungeon on Vet hard mode, he was shredding me up even with Leeching. If I had Twilight's Embrace, not having a heal for 10 seconds at all is awful. And as you can see, this is my only source of healing in this whole thing, and we're still going. So I do think that Leeching has won this fight. Crimson Twilight definitely put up a good fight, but obviously this is a bit extreme with this many enemies. But even in the other boss fights, especially the first one, which is pretty common amount of enemies, Leeching outperformed. There's obviously personal preference, and I did try to make sure my bias is outside of this. I actually gave Twilight more chances than I did Leeching. Let me know what you guys think as far as what is better. If there's any other sets that you'd like me to compare, I actually enjoyed doing this quite a bit. It was nice to do something else different from just making normal builds. So if there's any ideas you guys would like for an ESO video, just let me know down in the comments. If you guys enjoy this type of stuff, we post tons of Elder Scrolls Online builds. We play some Minecraft, Destiny 2, God of War. We got plenty of content to go around on the channel here, so like and subscribe if you guys want to join the Venom Syndicate and help our community and channel grow. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.